Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Elias McCall. Elias, welcome to the podcast, man.
What's up, man?
So we're going to just start off with a couple questions, Elias, that I like to ask all of my guests. So the first one I've got for you is, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Especially now, I've really liked Derek Lunsford. He's now that he's going to open, he's able to kind of like fully maximize his potential and like actually growing, because he's not being held back by eating like 4 ounces of meat every meal and like can actually grow. I really like his physique. He's just like the perfect bodybuilding look. Open bodybuilder as of now. I'm not like a huge fan of like the mass monsters. I really like Andrew Jacked, Samson. I do like Ian, like not taking anything away from like Nick Walker or Ian, like they look phenomenal. I just like prefer that physique. And I'd like to keep my physique looking more like that as I come up. But that's all depending genetically, like what I'm built for. But
Very cool, man. Okay. Who are there any guys from kind of the past, that you kind of respect their physiques or kind of admired on the come up?
Ronnie.
There we go, man.
Ronnie's my favorite.
Love it, man.
Just obviously he's best of all time, but I really like Ronnie's personality too. Like I met him and he's just such a genuine dude. He's walking on walkers and he's still just excited to be there, as he probably was back when he was doing the Olympia. He's a great guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I've got to ask you, since you brought up Derek, Andrew, and Samson, obviously Derek's been on the scene for a while, but was doing 212. Andrew just literally got his pro card earlier this year, won 2 pro shows, and is kind of the talk of the Olympia right now. And then Samson is definitely making improvements like none other. So first of all, let's start with Derek. And I've asked a lot of people, we've had this conversation a lot on the podcast recently, because I'm fascinated by Derek being in the open this year. What are your thoughts in terms of where he may place? Do you think he's going to be in the top 5, top 10? What do you think? You don't have to give me an exact placing, because that's really hard, but top 5 or top 10, what do you think?
I want to say 100% top 10. I'd like to see what they do with him, or how he looks first. When we saw him, when he did that guest posing, I know it was a guest posing, it was off season, with Hunter and Nick, he just looked phenomenal compared to them. I know it's off season, so you can't really compare that, but he looked like he stood right there with all of them. Now looking back at like last year and the previous years when he's been dieting down, he's really holding back. And he's having to eat such a little amount of food to actually make weight. So I think now that he's actually going to be able to eat food and then diet down correctly, if he comes in shape like he did last year's Olympia, I think he'll be in the top 5 for sure. So that's like obviously bigger, same shape as last year, peaks just as good. I think he'll be top 5 for sure.
I'm with you, man. I think he's not a dark horse, but I definitely think he's an X factor for that top 5, top 7, top 8 at the Olympia. Now, Andrew Jacked, man, I think he's a wild card of all wild cards. Where do you think he's going to find himself this year at the Olympia?
Man, it's so hard to say, especially being like the new guy. I'd say he's probably going to be in top 10.
Okay.
And we'll see again when he's like really up there next to all those Olympia competitors that have been up there every year. We'll see how he looks. I'd say top 10.
Yeah. Cool, man. And then Samson, he's he's another one, man. He could be, legit, he could probably be top 5, top 6. If he comes in and he's got that size, would you agree with that or not?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. If he comes conditioned, like he just needs to nail the conditioning and be hard and dry as those guys that come up in the top 5 are. I think he could definitely be in there. Like all the guys, I mean, the Olympia's huge this year. A lot of those guys can be up there. It's just who comes the best.
For sure. Yeah, over 30 guys qualified for the men's open. It's going to be wild. So let's transition Elias into the second question. I kind of like to start each podcast off with. Let us know at what age you started lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
First time I picked up weights was when I was 14. I started lifting because football, our football coach in 8th grade was like pushing us to train. So he would take us to the weight room sometimes. It wasn't consistent at all, but we'd go sometimes. I'd go once and I'm like sore for 2 weeks. I was small growing up too. I wasn't very big. I think my freshman year in high school, I was like 150 pounds. I wasn't a very big kid. And I'm 5'10", 5'7", starting high school. That's what really got me into it. So I started lifting weights, and then obviously throughout high school, it was consistent because I had to take a class, and it was like required to do it to play football. You had to do it. And then I just like, when you're in that, when you're in the weight room with those guys, and like it's like a competition when you're lifting with your team. You're like, you want to be the strongest, you want to be the fastest, you want to be the biggest on the field. So that's where I kind of like got that like competitive side of me that I really enjoyed. I had no interest in being bodybuilder. I just always wanted to be really big and really strong and look good, but I just wanted to be like the best football player. And if I wasn't the most athletically talented, I could at least be the strongest, you know. That's where that kind of grew onto me, and that's where that started.
Cool. So. Cool. Awesome, man. Yeah, I think most of us have a very similar story. So, okay, I like to use that question, Elias, to kind of transition into my guest upbringing. So you mentioned football, but talk a little bit about like where you grew up. Do you have siblings? What other sports did you play? What was Elias like when he was, elementary age up to middle school into high school?
So I grew up in Woodstock, Georgia. I went to Woodstock High School. When I was younger, like, man, my parents kind of pushed me to play sports and stuff. I played a lot of different sports when I was like first, second grade, third grade. I played them growing up all the way until I graduated high school. But I wasn't like super into it as much as like, I don't know. I was more into like, I like playing video games. Like I was a weirdo. I had a lot of friends, but it wasn't like, I don't know. I just didn't like sports as much growing up until I started to get like, I guess like hit puberty and stuff. That's where I started to like that kind of stuff. Younger me, I was small. I was always skinny. I wasn't a big kid. I would say honestly, before I started lifting weights, I was like a very weak kid. I wasn't that strong. Like I think the first time I bench pressed, man, I was benching like a 25 on each side for like a couple reps. Like I was really weak. I mean, I was 14 years old, but I wasn't very strong at all. And that kind of like motivated me. I don't know, like seeing people that were like, I was just so competitive all the time with everything. That kind of like pushed me to be better. And I have siblings. I have a brother and a sister. And yeah, that's about it. Not too much.
What were you interested in school? What were you like as a student, or were you not really interested in academics?
No, I had no interest in school. I graduated high school probably like a 3.0, like not very good. I didn't do very good in high school. I mean, I did good because I was playing sports. You have to do decent to even play. But yeah, I wasn't really interested in school. I applied for a college, got in, and then before it was time to do housing arrangements for college, and I like just brushed it off, never did it. So I couldn't even go to the school at that point because the housing arrangement was gone, and my buddy that I was gonna get a house with, like, he's like, dude, you missed it. Like, you're past that point, and you have to live on campus for that college I was going to. So I didn't go to college. I was like, what am I gonna do? So I joined the military, joined the Marine Corps, been in for 6.5 years now. And then obviously being in the military, like, you have to be in shape. Obviously it's like a requirement to run fitness tests every year. So, and then that kind of pushed me like the gym so much. So I was like, oh, like bodybuilding looks cool. Like I should get into that. I really never even got into it from, I wanted to be a bodybuilder. It was more of the fact, like, I liked going to the gym so much. I liked training. And I mean, I wanted to look really good. I was always kind of obsessed with that, looking good. And I was like, then I just kept going. And I was like, let's do a show. I tried it out, and I just fell in love with it from there.
Okay. So before we get too deep into bodybuilding, you mentioned you're in the military, you're in the Marines. That's very unique in terms of being a high level, athlete bodybuilder. But before we get to military talk and bodybuilding talk, was there anything that really you said you were kind of, into gaming and stuff like that when you were, younger. Was there anything that you were kind of thinking of, like, let's say, junior, senior year, outside of, maybe going to college? Was there anything that really fascinated you or interested you, Elias, in terms of like a job or career that maybe you were thinking about pursuing after high school before the military, or were you just kind of like not really thinking about that at all at that point?
Honestly, everybody, like, when you're around that in high school, everybody's like, oh, I'm going to college for this, I'm going to college for that. Like, I'm getting accepted here. Like, oh, my buddies are like, oh, I'm going to play football here. Like, I didn't get any scholarships or anything to play anywhere. So one, I wasn't tall enough. One, I wasn't big enough. I was like 205 in high school. They're like, oh, you want to play inside linebacker? You need to be like 240 coming to college. Like, you got to be big. So I didn't have that size, and I didn't have the height. So that was what I wanted to do really bad, and I didn't have the size for it. So everybody was talking about what they wanted to do, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I wish I could say that I had something, but like, I just didn't. In high school, I wasn't thinking about that kind of stuff. I was thinking about girls, and I was thinking about drinking and doing dumb shit.
I think, again, most of us, some of us might have an idea of what we want to do, in terms of like a job or career. But when you're a teenager, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know anything. Most of us are focused on girls and partying. Like, that's the way it is. But what's that?
Even the people that say they know what they want to do, it's like they get to college and they're like, do I really want to still do this?
Right. Yeah. 1,000% correct. Yeah. Okay. Now, where did the seed of the military get planted in your mind, and why the Marines? Because the Marines is, about as hardcore as it gets. So when did the military kind of come into your life? Did you get recruited? Did you run into a recruiter? Talk about that, Elias, if you don't mind.
So my mom was in the Marine Corps, and she was like, well, she didn't push it on me at all. She was just like, well, you're just working. Like, if you're not going to go to college and you're not going to really do any of that, like, why don't you just talk to the recruiter? Like, you don't have to do it, just talk. So she had a friend, and I sat down with him, and we talked about it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not doing anything else with my life. I mean, it'd been like, I graduated like 2 months before that. So it wasn't like I hadn't been doing anything. I was still working, but I was like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I have no reason to stay here, and like I'll just do it. Why not? It's 5 years, or it was 4 years that I thought. I was like, let's just do it. Like, it can't hurt. You get a lot of benefits from doing it. So I started there, went in,
Tell us about boot camp. The Marines boot camp is known to be pretty crazy. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it's just as wild as it looks in the videos. It's pretty intense from the second you get there. Uh, you get there. I left, I think, like early morning. We had a bus ride to, since we were in Georgia, we got bused up to Paris Island in South Carolina. It's about like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. They bussed us up there, and then they fed us, and then we got there. Got yelled at to get off the bus, yellow footsteps, and then we went in the doors. And then from that point on, I'm pretty sure we were awake for like almost 2 full days because they have like paperwork and like all this stuff. They have to get us our gear and everything, and it's just like in processing stuff. So you don't have time to like sleep. You got to get it all done and knocked out. And man, that was awful. And they shaved all our heads, and we're still in like the clothes we wore 3 days ago. We just look like idiots. And then we finally got to our squad bays. That has to have been like the best I've ever slept. Like I laid down, and I swear I shut my eyes and I opened my eyes, and it was like 6 hours later. Yeah, but Marine Corps boot camp was pretty intense. You kind of like discover yourself a little bit while you're there, and kind of like see what you're made of. And when I went there, I was already in good shape from playing football. Like I could run pretty well. I had good endurance. I wasn't like weak because I worked out a lot. So like doing pull-up, I think when we did pull-ups, I did like 20 something, and the max was 21. You have to like climb ropes. There's a lot of like obstacle courses we do. And a lot of the hiking is very intense because it's so long. We do like 20-mile hikes. Just a lot of intense stuff. A lot of it is mental too. Like they like mentally mess with you a lot. And like some people would just snap because they couldn't take it. And you gotta like every day you gotta sit down and it's like being in a prep, it's a little different, but you just gotta sit there and be like, this is gonna end. Like 3 months, like I'm gonna graduate from this. Like it may suck right now, but I'm gonna get through it. It's not that bad, I'm not dying. I'm still getting fed every day. I'm just tired. It's annoying, but we'll get through it. It's not. That's what you have to tell yourself. You could like, as long as you're qualified to do it, and like you don't have any health conditions, you can go in there. If you can deal with the mental stuff, you can deal with like being yelled at and like all the physical stuff. You can get through it. Even the people that said they wanted to drop out when they were like, I'm done. Like, fuck this. I'm done. I'm not doing it. They like will pull you aside and talk to you like a normal human being in the hall, and like they try to get you to stay. They don't want you to quit. So it's intense, but anybody with like some mental fortitude and good physical shape can get through it.
Cool. Now, one last question about the Marines. And if you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. But are you cool with just like, sharing with us like what you actually do in the Marines? Are you, what's kind of like your career field within the Marines, or is that something you don't want to talk about?
No, I can talk about that. So I do aviation life support. What I do is it kind of varies on where you're at. There's 2 levels of where we could go. So you have O level and then I level. O level is you're in the flying squadron. So like you work in the squadron where the last one I worked at was helicopter CH-53s. You'll work in there. So, and then I level is kind of like, almost like you could think of like a manufacturer, so everything we work on is like life support gear. So like survival vests, SRUs, like their breathing devices. And it all depends on the aircraft you're on. So there's a huge field of things we can work on. We can work on parachutes, survival vests, life rafts, any kind of oxygen gear that any fixed wing aircraft would use. So like a Harrier, they use oxygen concentrators that flow oxygen to them while they're flying, when they're flying at those high altitudes. The parachutes in fixed wing aircraft we pack those parachutes. They're all in big headrests that go on an ejection seat. It's not connected to the pilot. So if they have to eject, the parachute's connected to the seat. And then a lot of inflatable stuff we work on. So like the seat pans in those ejection seats, they have life rafts in them. So if they hit water, they're supposed to inflate if they eject. And then we pack a lot of the survival gear in there. That's more eye-level stuff, O-level stuff in the squadron. You actually work on some of the stuff on the aircraft. We deal with a lot of the pyrotechnics on the aircraft and CADs, which are cartridge actuated devices. So just simple. They have engine fire bottles. There's a few engine fire bottles for a CH-53. And in the case of a fire in the engine, the pilot would pull the fire bottle, and the fire bottle is going to shoot halon through the tubes into the engine to put the fire out. There's a CAD, which it's like a little, it's almost the size of like I don't even know, like a little almond. It's small, and it screws into there, and it's just like a pulse. So it pulses and sets it off. There's bigger CADs that go in like a parachute. So when those parachutes eject, it separates the parachute so it spreads. We work on a lot of different stuff. It's a very big field. But I mean, I enjoy what I do. What I do is kind of nice that I'm not infantry. So I can kind of do bodybuilding with it. If I was infantry and I was going to the field a lot and doing all that, I wouldn't be able to really bodybuild.
Very fascinating, man. I love that. Very cool. Okay, now let's get into what everybody's here for, the bodybuilding talk. So before we talk about you starting to compete, Elias, when were you first exposed to bodybuilding, or when was the first time that you actually saw like Ronnie Coleman on a magazine or an IFBB Pro? Do you remember, and who was it, or how were you exposed?
Okay, so going back to like high school, I used to go to this store. It was called All About Health. And I would go in there. The guys that worked there were just jacked. So like, I don't know. I liked that. Just seeing that, I was like, this is what I want to look like. I want to be huge. So I'd go there and buy like my protein and like all my like basic stuff. And then all over the wall there, they had bodybuilders like Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman, Victor Martinez. They had like a lot of people on the wall. We're old school people. And the owner was really into bodybuilding stuff. And he like talked to me about it. But I was like, when I was in high school, I was like, I care about football. I don't care about bodybuilding. Like, I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I want to play football. So that's where I kind of like started to see it. And then when I was out of high school in the Marine Corps, once I was like in the fleet and then like working, I really started to just watch YouTube videos on like more training and stuff to kind of get more into it. And I saw, I was looking at more like influencers at the beginning. Like I watched Steve Cook's training videos to just like see how he trained and stuff. And who was the other one? I think Callum Von Moger was one of the guys that I like would watch. And like they were huge. So I would just watch them. I really didn't watch any like bodybuilders, there's not many big bodybuilders that are like kind of influencers, So I watched these guys that just had big YouTube pages. And I kind of learned from there. And then as I like got more into bodybuilding, I'm like, man, these guys aren't even bodybuilders. They're just fitness influencers. Like, so that's kind of where I got introduced into it. And then obviously as I started, like I did my first show and I got more and more into bodybuilding and the industry, I kind of like understood bodybuilding more and what it actually was than just what you're seeing on Instagram and YouTube.
Very cool.
That's kind of where I got.
Yeah, love that, man. Okay, so when did you decide that you were going to first compete, and when was your first competition? Walk us through that a little bit, Elias.
I think it was May or April of 20. I would.
Yeah, I'm still here. Are you there?
I am. Yeah. It just, you were like frozen.
Yeah.
So
So 2018, you said, is your first competition?
yeah. So April 2018, I started my first prep, and it was like, man, I wasn't even tracking my food. I was eating 5 meals a day. I didn't know how much chicken I was eating or how much protein I was eating. I was just eating carbs. I'd eat like nuts for fat. I didn't really know anything about what I was doing. I looked good, or at least I thought I looked good. So I was like, I'll do a show, and then I hired a coach, talked to him about it. Coach really had no idea what he was doing. I mean, he didn't charge me a lot or rip me off. He's a good guy. I still know him, but I would say like he wasn't really on top of my coaching. Like, I'm pretty sure from the first week I started prep to like 6 weeks out, he changed my plans once. That's a big issue. But going in, I really wasn't primed for a show. I hadn't been like consistently eating meals a lot and then working up to like a high amount of food and then kind of being able to diet down. I was already like fairly lean. So I just decided to do it. And I was on the point with my meals. Like, I didn't miss anything. I hit everything. And then it came to like 6 weeks out, and I was like, man, I don't know if like I'm lean enough. I was like, I need to be a lot leaner than what I look like now. And I didn't realize I needed to like check in every week. Like, that wasn't kind of like, I'd never did this before. So I didn't know what it like required and should have been doing. So I reached out to him again, and I was like, hey man, like I'm not getting lean enough. So he changed my plan, and it was just like, and then I went home. I lived in North Carolina because I'm in the military. So I went home for a couple of weeks, and I met this guy named Shannon at the LA Fitness I would train at when I was at home. And I knew he was a bodybuilder. He was a lot older. He's probably in his like 40s and stuff. And then the girl he trained with was an NPC judge in Georgia. And I told him about it. He's like, dude, you're not ready. You're not even close. I was like, yeah, man. I was like scared, but I'm not going to look good. I don't want to embarrass myself. So he kind of like walked me through some stuff, told me some stuff to take. And he's like, dude, you need to be doing like 2 hours of cardio. Like, you need to be in like nothing right now. If you want to at least look good on stage, like you need to kill yourself. So he kind of like wrote me up some stuff. He gave me like a waist trainer, and then like some of that, what is it called? It's like vasoburn to put on my stomach while I do cardio. He's like, you just need to sweat and get hot and burn as much off as you can. And I think at that point he changed my meal plan to like a half a cup of oats before I trained and after, and that was it. It was like nothing. So I was doing fasted cardio before I trained, and then cardio after I trained. And then I dropped a good amount of weight going into the show. I still didn't come in even close to what I should have looked like. And I think I weighed like 199. So I was in heavyweights, but I didn't look like a heavyweight. I didn't even look like a light heavyweight. So I did my first show in August of 2018. That was my first show and my only show I've ever done. And then I deployed after that. I came back and like, I deployed like right after that, like the week after. Then I came back February of 2019. I don't remember. And I talked to my coach while I was gone, and I was like, hey, I want to get bigger. Like, I want to do more shows. Like, I need to put on some size. And then I worked with him for a little bit. And then into that summer, I guess I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, I did my first show in August. And then after that, I was just like, I really like this. Like, I took second. There's like 4 people, but I mean, it wasn't competitive at all.
Very cool, man. Okay. Now let's fast forward a little bit. So, what have you kind of, obviously with the military and stuff, it might be a little bit tricky, but what have you been focusing on? Are you kind of just like focusing on getting as big as possible, Elias, and getting that tissue on your frame? Like, what's your focus been over the time frame since you got back from your deployment?
And we're saying back then, right? Back then, like, what was my goal?
Yeah. And then like kind of like moving forward right now, like what are you moving towards in terms of bodybuilding?
Okay, so back then, yeah. So I still didn't even like know much about bodybuilding. Still, like I watched the Olympia and like I watched shows, but I didn't know much about it. All I knew was I was like, yeah, I want to get bigger so I could compete and do better. So that's what kind of my goal was. Um, and eventually that summer I hired Cameron and started working with him. And I told Cameron, I was like, yeah, I want to do a show. And then we talked more about it. And um, he's like, dude, why don't, so I told him I want to do classic physique originally. And I was like, I'm just not big enough to do bodybuilding right now. So we talked about that. And he's like, dude, why don't you just do bodybuilding and just get a lot bigger? And I think that was him telling me my physique is probably geared more towards bodybuilding. So he told me that. And then we started putting on size, and like, I put on size very easy. It just seemed like once we were in a growing phase and I was eating a lot, it was like, wow, the pounds just start packing on by the week. Like I responded very well to it. And so my goal then was like, I don't care what we're doing. Like we just got to get bigger. Like I'm a small dude. Like it takes time to put muscle on. Like that's what we're worried about right now. And so that's all we did. Just put size on growing phase after growing phase. And we did some mini cuts in between to cut some fat off. And then ever since we did a mini cut back in 21, I think it was April or May, we stopped, and then we started growing again. And ever since then, I haven't done like any kind of mini cut because I've stayed fairly lean throughout the whole process. So we kind of, so we don't have to waste as much time like doing cuts and everything. So it's just been putting on size since then. I think that kind of like when you see competitors now kind of where they're at and they're just doing show after show after show, or at least at like the average competitor, maybe not like the very top of the national competitors, but some of the guys are just, I don't think they understand that you have to take time off to put on good muscle, especially in bodybuilding, maybe not the other divisions, but you got to take time off. Like but that kind of muscle doesn't get put on overnight or in 6 months.
And you said that you're 5'10", so in bodybuilding terms, I mean you're a taller guy, so that usually takes longer to fill out a frame like that as well, correct, Elias?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now you said Cameron, so you're referring to your current coach, Cameron, or I call him Cam Cheek.
Yeah.
So you started working with him in 2019, you said then?
Yeah, the summer of 2019, I think. Yeah, like May or something like that.
Okay. Now, how did you get connected with him, and what's it been like working with him? I'm sure your bodybuilding knowledge has expounded greatly working with Cam, correct?
Yeah, definitely. So I had a friend, and then had two friends, and we like went to the gym one day, and then I guess one of them was getting coached by Cameron at the time. I think this is right when Cameron was just starting. Cameron came to the gym and then we trained, and then I talked to Cameron a little after. I just met him and stuff, and we didn't talk too much. And then he reached out to me on Instagram, and just like we followed each other, and he's like, "Hey man, you look good," blah, blah, blah. And we got to talking more and stuff. And then he was telling me he does coaching, and I was like, yeah, I don't think my coach really's got me where I want to be right now. And he's like, I don't think he can get me there. So me and Cameron just started talking more and got it into it, and then stopped. And ever since then, I just clicked with Cameron very well. And I mean, I've seen such great progress. And since then, it's been a learning process for Cameron as well, because he had just started. But he's just getting better and better, obviously. He's a great coach, and have nothing negative to say about it.
That's great, man. I've had him on and had a lot of his athletes. They all speak very highly of him. So what's your guys' plan then going forward? I mean, are you looking to get back on stage, next year, or is it just, block by block, year by year? Like, walk us through that, because your story's excuse me, a little unique, Elias?
Yeah. So right now, just got out of a growing phase a couple weeks ago. We're maintaining right now. I think for the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to be maintaining. My weight has held since the peak of my growing phase. It's held the same, so we haven't had any dips or anything. So that's a positive. But I think we're waiting another 2-4 weeks, and then we're going to start basically start prep. I know my show's not till September. I'm going to do my qualifier, and then I'm going to do North Americans right after. But we're going to start kind of just like cutting off a little fat so we can kind of do like fat loss phases and then into feeding me more so I don't just flatten out, and then kind of like going back and forth. I'm not sure like exactly the plan he has set up, but that's kind of our plan moving forward into this upcoming year in the prep. So
Excellent. Now, talk to me a little bit about your training. How has your training evolved over the last several years?
It's definitely gotten a lot better. I used to, like, back when I was just joining the Marine Corps and stuff, like, I didn't know really what I was doing. I was just bench pressing, squatting, deadlifting. I did power cleans because we did that in football. So I got into Olympic lifting a little bit and was doing that. And then I realized once my arms got big, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't even get my elbows forward. So really it was just like, it wasn't anything consistent. And then obviously I was watching people on YouTube, so I was taking workouts that they would do. And then once I had a coach, Cameron kind of did my training a little bit. And then me and Cam separated ways with training, at least. And then I started doing my own thing. My wife, when we first started dating, she worked at MI40, and she taught me a lot of the stuff she learned from Ben Pekulski and Jordan Shallow. So she taught me like how to train very well and a lot of good exercises. So I learned a lot from her. And then recently I started working with Nick Gloff. He does my training now, so he's overseeing all that. And I really like his training right now. Like, this is awesome. This is probably like the best my training's ever been. I'm really excited moving forward with the training of how well it's going and how it's structured. But I've always say I trained fairly decent. Like, I was never like had just awful form and trained like a monkey. But I really enjoy training. I mean, that's why I started bodybuilding.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you to get a little bit more specific. So Nick was just on the podcast last week. He's been on a couple times. Super cool guy. So I guess what I want you to tell us, Elias, how has working with Nick Gloff changed your training, or how has he changed it to where you said you're kind of training and enjoying it the most at this point in terms of ever. So what's the difference with Nick, how you've trained in the past?
Well, it's really structured. So I like the way the days are set up. And before we started and stuff, he took into account like what I said worked very well for me and everything. So one, he listened very well. Like when we were setting that up, he just like took into account like everything I said. So I really appreciated that. And then when I was looking at the plan, it's like we have warm-ups, multiple warm-ups before we start training. And I think I was kind of neglecting that. And so doing those like warm-up movements and like these little core exercises before I start training, I think those like just made my training so much better. Everything was firing well. And there's a lot of exercises, but most of them are one or two top sets. That's about it. But I just think the exercise selection and then how they're structured in the plan, like chest day, we're doing chest first, or shoulders, chest, then triceps, or just however he has got it laid out. I think it just flows very well. And a lot of the exercises are like kind of newer to me. So I really like them. So I don't know. It's kind of like it's new, but at the same time, I'm like, wow, this is just like some next level stuff. Like it's awesome.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sounds like it's fully tailored to you and not anybody else, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. And I don't think, I mean, I would say the plan's kind of more for like more advanced, you know, like I've been training for like a while, and I'm a little bit bigger than like the average person. So like if he was to make a program for kind of somebody that was a little newer, I think it'd be a little simpler than what it is now. And like a newer guy, even if been training for a couple of years, is going to respond very well from like just that stimulus. But how he has mine set up, I think it's like you said, it's just perfectly tailored to me and what I'm going to need versus somebody else. So he's got that down pat. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's good.
He certainly does. Now, I know your overall focus the last several years has been size, but you know, when you have Cam or somebody else maybe just take a look at your photos or look at you in person, what are some of the areas that you are more focused on than the other areas? So what are some of your weaknesses that you really see in terms of your physique that you're really trying to bring up?
So in the past, it was my upper body needed to come up a lot because my legs were a lot bigger, or at least my quads were. They kind of overpowered everything. And then recently, we've just really brought my upper body up. Like my arms were small, my chest still a weak point, but we just blew that up. My back got a lot denser, wider, and thicker. And now my legs were we're like, okay, maybe we need to bring the legs up a little more now to match the upper body. So I wouldn't say I'm like unproportionate or anything, or where it's like, wow, that looks weird to look at. But right now, our main focus is like really bringing my hamstrings up, maybe a bit more size in my quads. Obviously, like more size everywhere, but I think putting a bit more size in my legs is kind of gonna like just make me look that much better. Back as well. Obviously, like for newer guys, younger guys, back is normally like that harder point because it takes so much time to build a dense back. I'd say back, chest, and hamstrings. Really, I'm working on bringing up a lot right now. It's weird to say that, man. My arms have always been just a lot smaller. Like they look bigger when they're down, but when I'm hitting my poses, it's like, yeah, they just look 2D. They don't look 3D. And now I'm like, wow, my arms actually look good in my poses. Like, so we're seeing improvements. Just gotta keep polishing everything off all the way till next year.
Yeah. Okay. What did you do, or what movements did you find worked best for you in terms of bringing up your arms? Because that's a weak point for a lot of us.
So I noticed, Cameron had me, we were doing like one arm exercise per push or pull day. So then I kind of like when I was doing my own training, I just had an arm day. And then even on my push days and pull days, I would do like one or two tricep exercises on my push days, then pull day like a bicep exercise, if I wasn't sore from my arm day or anything. But I think having a arm day by itself, upping the volume and just really upping the volume really made them grow like crazy. With Nick now, I do that basically that same thing, push and pull days. I still have a little biceps and triceps. And then I have a specific arm day. So I think really just the frequency of hitting them and then hitting them harder. Really, you could say that with any body point. You know, if you need to bring that up, you just need to train it more and you need to train it harder.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what is your goal next year when you step on that North American stage? What is your goal? What is your focus moving forward into competing next year in 2023?
My focus is, well, I really I want to go pro. That's my goal, my number one goal, and what I'm aiming for first. But well, I'm going to say first. My number one goal is to become in the best shape I've ever been in. Obviously, that's not going to be hard, but the best I've ever been, and just get up on that stage and at least first call outs. Like that's what I really want. I want to go pro. It's my first national show. I'm 25. So, I mean, I'm not like I have to go pro. Like I'm going to go pro. It's not nothing like that. It's really just going up there and getting on the stage and kind of getting more experience. I'd say up there. I need that. So, I think if I come in perfect, I think I can be competitive up there. I mean, we'll see once I'm dieted down and everything, but that's my main goal, man.
As it should be, dude, right? Like, I mean, if you're gonna go all in with bodybuilding, you got to go after that pro card and beyond, right?
Exactly. I think that's that's wanting to do it competitively is focused towards doing that. If they're willing to get that big, they kind of want to be a pro.
Right. Okay, now I want to take a step back, and you brought up your wife, and so from your Instagram, I saw that she's actually an IFBB Pro. So I would love to hear, how did you guys meet, and when did she turn pro? What is she pro in? Like, what category? Talk about, just your relationship with your wife and how maybe she's just kind of helped you with the bodybuilding thing, or how nice is it to have somebody that also competes and kind of gets the lifestyle?
Yeah. So my wife she turned pro in figure in 2018. She won her class at USA's. Now she's doing wellness. She's changed over. She did a show in 2021, October. She did the Kentucky Pro. So I think she got second call out to that show. I think that was the worst placing she's ever gotten that she's ever competed in. I think her first pro show, she got sixth at Puerto Rico. So she knew she needed to be bigger. Like, she needed to have just more detail in her back. Her waist is like this freaking big. It's tiny. So if she wanted to stay in figure and she wanted to, like, I could see her, if she put that size on, she could be at the Olympia. Like, she's just got that shape, very wide shoulders, wide back, tiny little waist. She's got good quads, and she's shaped very well, but she kind of didn't want to have to push what she'd have to push to put on that size as a female. So she's like, she wanted to do something more feminine. So I can understand that, especially like kind of how far the girls that are even at the Olympia, like, you got freaks like Sydney Gillen that are winning. She's just, her shape and everything is just going to destroy everybody else. But a lot of those other girls are pushing it hard to get that big, and she doesn't want to do that. She wants to stay more feminine. So she's moving over to wellness. She's been with, she has a different coach, and the last about 2 months, she's put on 18 pounds, and she's about like 150 right now. And looking at what she used to look like at 150, it's a different person. Like, she's just put on a lot of size in her lower body, and she's just filling out awesome. Like, she looks great. I think in the next year she'll be ready to start prepping for a show, and I'm excited for her. But getting back to where we met in 2020. We met through Cameron, actually. Cameron started coaching her. I'd been with Cameron for a while, and we met online. Like, a lot of people meet that way now, I know. But we met online. We started talking. She reached out to me first.
Nice.
We started talking, and then obviously, like, I'm in the military and stuff, so I was like, why don't you just come up and visit me like one weekend? And then so I flew her up there. We clicked like instantly. It was great. We started dating. We were seeing each other for actually, I think, 4 months, and then we decided to get married. So we kind of moved a little faster than most people, but we just clicked very well, and we knew that. I mean, when you know, you know. I don't know if you're married, but like, when you know, you know.
Yeah.
So we decided to do it and then pull the trigger, and like, we've been together for 2.5 years now. So it's been going well. She's helped me so much with bodybuilding, especially. She'd been competing since she was like 19 or 20, and she's about to turn 28. So she'd been doing it a really long time when we met. And she was a pro. Like, she was living in Orlando when she was in college. She went to UCF, and then she was in Tampa at MI40. So she knew, like, obviously big bodybuilding around there, Tampa, Orlando area. So she knew a lot of people. She had a lot of connections, just a lot of friends in the industry, and like, that kind of brought me more into it. Her being around it so much, and I learned more from her a lot in training, because she just taught me so much and like fixed a lot of issues. she's very smart. She's like super smart when it comes to training because she's learned from such good people, and she's helped me a lot in moving, like her doing bodybuilding and being competitive with it. It's kind of like been good with, at least because, you know, bodybuilding can be kind of selfish at times. So she understands it, and she knows how we can both do it and be good at it, but we can also have a good relationship as well. So it doesn't have to suck everything out when you both are doing it and you're both trying to stay on track. You can both have a good relationship if you know how to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the question I'm sure a lot of us are wanting to know, or the answer we want to know, is when she first reached out to you through Instagram, what did she say to you, Elias? Or is that confidential information?
No. So, this is like a joke we have ongoing because it was COVID at the time. It was just starting, and so everything shut down. So on base they had in the supply building, they had supply had a gym built, and they shut the base gym down. So they were letting us come work out and stuff. So they had this Nautilus row. It's like an isolateral row. It's plate loaded, and you can row here. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a really good row machine. And I guess it's just I didn't know at the time, but it was some really good piece of equipment. And we just had that diamond in our shitty military gym in the supply building. So I did it, and then I had like 5 girls message me just from that one message, and she was one of them. And I just started talking to her from there. So we still joke to this day, oh yeah, you hit me up the same time all these other girls hit me up, and I chose you. It's come on, you got to be the one.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
That's literally how we met. She messaged me. I think she likes to talk about the equipment, and then we just started talking from there, and it just clicked.
Wow. Yeah, you want to talk about a bodybuilding dude's dream come true? Have a pro reach out to you because you posted something because of a piece of equipment you posted on your Instagram, huh?
It's funny. I was doing a row, and it was wow, I didn't know this row was a chick magnet. Where did this come from?
That's great, man. That's an awesome story right there. Everybody will love that. Now we're going to start wrapping up here, Elias, but before we do, since we're talking about places to train, I know you're up in New Jersey at this point. Bodybuilding is pretty big up in that neck of the woods. Some really good gyms. Do you train on base, or do you train off base? Where do you train, and how's that gym for you?
I only train base when I need to. I live 45 minutes from base. My main gym I'm always at is Attila's in Belmar. I train a couple times a month at Iron Revolution. It's a really good gym. They've got a lot of prime stuff, Panada and Arsenal. Really good setup. They got a great posing room. I like training up there because the equipment's so good. There's actually a lot of good gyms up here. And then as you start, I'd say Central Jersey, there's the best gyms. But I go to Attila's because they've just got so much, and owner's amazing, and I really like that gym. And it's better. I train at the Edge over here in Cherry Hill. It's kind of I'd say it's like a LA Fitness kind of. I train there every now and then. They got a tanning room, and if I'm doing arms, I can train there. But it's always made me.
Cool. Now, is Attila's the one where they refused to shut down during COVID?
Yeah, that gym.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah. It's the Attila's in Belmar, because there's another one in Egg Harbor that's owned by a different owner. But yeah, it's that gym.
Yeah, that's you guys. Those guys are some pretty hardcore, legit dudes then, right there, huh?
Yeah, it's a great gym. The owner he's great. I remember one time, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but somebody was talking smack about Liana and her business and shit, and then Frank knew about it. They came into the gym. Frank went off on that person and then kicked them out. He's just he's a real dude. He cares so much. He's such a nice dude, and I love him. You're not gonna find that kind of person anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, now you mentioned earlier when you first kind of got into bodybuilding, you were kind of checking out some of the influencers, Steve Cook and stuff like that on YouTube. What are some of your go-to YouTube channels nowadays in terms of fitness or bodybuilding?
I like muscle and strength videos because they're kind of funny. They're entertaining to watch. But mainly, uh, to be honest, I don't watch as much bodybuilding on YouTube. I get on YouTube and I watch a lot of like gaming stuff. But I remember my last prep, I was just watching bodybuilding stuff like left and right. I mean, I still do. I still watch it a good amount, but not as much. I watch more pages like I like Chris Bumstead's videos because they're just like put together so well. They're, like the videographers really well and they're edited well. So I watch his updates. I was watching Hunter Labrada's stuff every now and then I watch Brett Wilkins stuff. More of the guys that I like that post pretty often. I'll watch their videos when I see them come up. More of that. Those are but I like muscle and strength a lot.
Yeah, muscle and strength. They do a lot of the eating videos, right?
Yeah, eating and training videos.
Yeah. Okay. So what's somebody that's younger? You're very young. But somebody that's younger than you, maybe they're just getting into bodybuilding, or they were at that point where, they were just kind of like you were on YouTube trying to figure things out on their own. What's a couple pieces of advice, Elias, that you can share with some of the younger listeners or people that are kind of new to the bodybuilding game that maybe you know now that you kind of wish when you first started that you knew?
Number one, if you're going to get into bodybuilding, find a coach that's credible and good. If they're expensive, pay the money. It's worth it. Don't hire a cheap coach that really doesn't know what they're doing, because I think your first introduction into bodybuilding is going to be your coach, and if you get a coach, and how good your coach is. If you have an awful coach that just diets you to the ground and kills you, you're going to hate bodybuilding. Like, you're just going to resent it because that's your first time doing it. I'm kind of like, I know I had a bad coach my first time around, but I'd say like my mental is like a bit different than a lot of other people's. So that's not going to stop me from like doing it. But I know some people would be like, oh, this was awful. I'm not doing this. So find a good coach, find somebody that knows what they're doing. Really focus on eating is key. Like if you're going to do any division, you need to be on a structured plan. You need to be eating consistently, eating good food consistently before you start a show. Don't think you're just going to go into a show without like tracking your food or eating meals consistently, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. So kind of have a base before you're going to start competing. And then training, learn to train correctly. It's almost very simple stuff too. You want to tell people, don't get wrapped up in, especially nowadays, don't get wrapped up in what social media thinks bodybuilding, or what a lot of people think bodybuilding is. Like, I'm not going to like call out any pages, but like there's a lot of fitness, or there's a lot of Instagram bodybuilders out there that aren't bodybuilders. Like, don't believe what you see. Like, Goob's exposing all these people left and right, like that's not bodybuilding. Instagram's a huge part of bodybuilding, because it's, as a bodybuilder, it's like kind of like your portfolio, and like, why would a company want to sponsor you or pay you anything if you don't have an audience, But that's really what Instagram is for a bodybuilder. It's just it's like your resume.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Great advice, Elias. Now, speaking of sponsors, you've got your Iron Rebel hoodie on. I've got an Iron Rebel shirt on. I absolutely love Iron Rebel. How did you get connected with them, and talk about them for a quick minute?
My buddy Trey was with them. Trey Adcock. He did a video with them. He was with them, and then I was like talking to him about it, and I was like, oh, like it'd be cool. Like, I don't have at the time I was just with Aries, so I was like, I'll like reach out to them and be an affiliate and do like some affiliate stuff and just sell stuff and get a discount, because I really like their stuff. So I reached out to Luke. He's the athlete manager and one of the owners I believe, for Iron Rebel. So there's got a few owners, I think. And I reached out to him and talked to him about it. I just shot him a message. I think I shot him an email, and then I talked to him about it, and then I was like, hey man, like I'm really interested. I don't know what I need to do. Like, where do I sign up? Like, I'd like to be an affiliate and just like work from there. And so he gave me his Instagram, and then we messaged through there. And then I think he set me up like an account and stuff that night. And then we started going from there. And then he like never even told me I was an athlete, really. Like, I thought I was an affiliate. So I just like, I mean, I like their apparel. So I was like, I'm going to like advertise their stuff. And then he added me to the athlete group chat. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, and then he started sending me shit for free, and then like sending like care packages when stuff was new. And I was like, oh, I'm an athlete now. This is dope. And they would repost my stuff and say athlete. I was like, that's cool. But I don't know. I guess Luke liked me. And as we got to talking more, like I really like Luke. He's a great dude. Rebel, they've got their apparel is awesome. You know, it's not like Gasp is. It's their own thing. And they're always coming out with new stuff, and I really like their stuff. And when Trey was telling me, he was like, yeah, they're a great company and stuff, I started looking into their stuff, and I just liked the like powerlifting bodybuilding look. I'm not a big fan of like Alpha Lead and like Dark Sport, like those brands. I like more of like bodybuilding stuff, you know. That's what I like so much about them.
Yeah, cool. Now, who else are you sponsored by, or what other companies or brands are you connected with?
When I first got here, I don't know. Do you know Pat? He's the owner of Aries up here. No, you can get him on a podcast. He's awesome. I reached out to him because I had my buddy Danny that was working with them. I just went in there. I wasn't expecting anything, but I went and just like talked to him with Liana when we moved up here, and he was like talking to me about different brand stuff, because he's really into he's a nutrition store, by the way, up here. He's got like 4 stores here in Jersey. He's really big in the Northeast. He's really big into only selling real products, you know, like not like a GNC where they're selling products for $60, but it's like this is a $12 product, you know. So he sells like Hostile, Pollen, Axe and Sledge, like the good brands that are putting quality ingredients and like fully dosed ingredients in their products. So he's really big into that. He's really big into people understanding supplements and why you take this, why you need these ingredients. He's that's how he is. So we walked in. I had never met Pat, but I've been following Aries Nutrition for a couple of years, and I'd message him from now and then, just like replying to stories and stuff. And we went in, we talked to Pat. I bought like a bunch of stuff, and then he's like, do you guys want to be athletes? Like, so he brought us on there. And then ever since there, it's just been like, I swear it seems like every month his brand just gets better and better. Like, he comes out with amazing apparel. He does these amazing events. Like they did a bro chat with Aries. He had them all come down here. They'll do like a meet and greet at the store. And then they did like a training event, like at PSA, one of the gyms that Aries works with. Like, all the guys, these like big bodybuilders are at this gym. And like, if you got a ticket, you can come train with them. And like, they helped you train. It was pretty cool. I wasn't there for that one. And then they did a bro chat the next day. He's had Flex Lewis come, Eurishna, Guy Sistorino. He lives up here, so he's around a lot. He's got like a really, really big event. I can't say anything, but coming up. So he's very involved in bodybuilding up here, and he just adds so much like positivity to it, which I really like. So that's how me and Liana got introduced with Pat. And then through that, I don't know, have you heard of Apollon Nutrition?
Of course, yeah.
So through that, I like really fell in love with Apollon stuff, because their supplement, they have like all these pre-workouts, and then you look at their like EAA product. It's like a fully dosed, or it's like overdosed with everything, and just every ingredient down to the key. It's got like everything you need, exactly what you need. Their protein, like, it's just broken down perfectly. Just all the products they have are just, they're so geared towards exactly what you need. Like they have, I think 6 different pre-workouts, but every pre-workout is like, so they have a pre-workout for like fighters, right? It's called Lionheart, but it's geared towards like an endurance, somebody that's doing an endurance sport. You could take this. It's got like 100 milligrams of caffeine total, like 50 anhydrous and then 50 demalate. So it kicks in later. It's not a lot of caffeine at all, but it's geared for like endurance, people that are doing endurance sports. They've got Hooligan. It's like Branch's pre-workout, Branch Warren's. And you want to kick a door in when you take it. It's like they just have all these products. They all work so well, and like they're a bit pricier, but you're getting what you need in a product. So I really like that. They don't cut corners. So I wasn't with them or anything, but they were with some of the stuff at Aries. So I just used the pollen stuff. I just post about them and stuff, and like kind of do like these little reviews on them because I really liked them. And then I talked with whoever, it was Rob, the owner at the time. He ran the Apollon page. I messaged the page would message me sometimes when we talk. And then he asked one day to have me and Liana come up to Apollon Gym. It's about an hour from here in Edison, New Jersey, because they're based out in Jersey as well. So we went up there. We talked with Rob and then the CEO, Carolina. We talked with them for like 2 hours, and then they asked us if we wanted to be athletes. I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. Like, yeah, like whatever you're offering, that's awesome. Because I loved their stuff. I was like a little, like a fanboy. Like that was so cool. Like this company that I just love their stuff was asking me that. So we've been with them. We've had a great year with them. So I mean, I wouldn't leave them for like somebody could offer me way more money. Like I would stay with them. I just love their stuff so much, their products. And when people say there's like, oh, there's so many companies with good products, like I really think compared to every product on the market, I think their stuff is the best. Like sitting down, if I was to compare products with you, I'm like, their stuff is the best. Nobody's beating them. And it's because we got what, 6 weeks till the end of the year. They're releasing 6 more products this year.
Wow.
Every week they're coming out with a new product. Like they're just, I wish they were more mainstream and stuff so people would understand how good their stuff was. But I think they knock any other brand out of the park with like their stuff. So that's why I got in with Apollo.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. It's great because, we live in this culture, the social media culture, social media world where it's like, everybody wants a sponsorship and all this. And it's like, what have you done? Or like, what are you doing to provide value? Like, it's just wild. Everybody just wants handouts. And it's like, you haven't done anything. You haven't earned anything. Like what value are you providing? Like, are you even taking our supplements? Are you wearing our clothing? Like, you know what I mean?
100%. Pat will have people, because it's a thing around here to be an Aries athlete, like at least in like Jersey, because it's so prominent. Pat goes to a lot of stores and does samplings or gyms all the time, so he's everywhere. So I've had people message me, hey, how do I be an Aries athlete? I'm like, dude, like, yeah, do you even have an Aries shirt? Like, come on, bro.
They probably don't even have a profile picture, do they, Elias?
They're just like these small pages with 100 followers, but nothing against you at that. I'm just saying, like, don't be delusional about it, Right. Like, and that's what Instagram's like, putting in your head that being sponsored is the cool thing to be, even if you're not a bodybuilder, like whatever. But Pat will say he has people message them. They're like, first of all, you got to follow the Aries page. You don't even follow the page. Like, you don't follow the store.
That's awesome.
Like, you got to follow this page. You need to support the page, post about Aries, talk about Aries. Like, be a competitor. That's he's going to be a power lifter or a bodybuilder. Like, that's his thing. He's got, like, that's just, I don't know. Like you said, there's a lot of people that just want to be sponsored. Me and my wife, we weren't going in there with the thought of like, oh, like will you sponsor us? It was just like he asked, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Like, I don't have anything. I'm going to do that. So we never went into with the mindset of like, will you sponsor me or anything like that. It was just like I like being around it so much because it involves me more in the sport. And even if I wasn't sponsored, I'd still hang out with all those guys. Like, that's just, I don't care. Like, if you're like you said, if you're going to be a sponsored athlete for any brand, number one, you need to like rep their stuff, like wear their shit. Like, you won't catch me in the gym. Like, I'm always wearing Iron Rebel or I'm always wearing Aries. It's one of the two, or I'm wearing like Nike shorts. Like, it's one of the two. And then number two, you need to rep their stuff, as in like you need to post about it, like you need to do all these things. And then number three, you have to have some kind of like audience, you know, even if you don't have a big audience, like you need to be a competitor of some sort. Like, you need to be involved with some kind of sport that like kind of puts the company more out there, and like you have something to offer the company that they would want to do that. You know, I know there's some bodybuilders out there with like shitty following, but they have their sponsors because they're such good bodybuilders, you know. But I think if a company's gonna spend money on you, give you supplements, give you money, pay for your shows, whatever, you have to have something to offer them. Like, you need to be a little creative with your posting, at least rep their shit all the time. Like, just wear their stuff. Like, you gotta offer them something.
Yeah. Great advice, Elias. Okay, I'm going to ask you this fun question, and then we're gonna wrap it up, man. What are your top 2 gym pet peeves?
Oh man, that's hard to narrow down to 2.
Well, give me 5 then. Whatever you want.
I'd say number 1 is when you're waiting for a piece of equipment and somebody is just sitting on their phone, or like they do a set and it's the most half-assed set, and then they're sitting there for like 5 minutes to do another set. That just irritates me so much, especially like when I go in the gym, especially recently. It's been like, don't fucking talk to me. I'm putting these headphones in and I'm getting this shit done. And I'm just drenched by the end of my workout. Like, that's the mindset I've been going in with recently. And I'm not like a dickhead at the gym or anything, but when you're waiting on a piece of equipment and you're that amped up and the person takes 20 minutes to do like 2 sets, like it'll piss you off. That's like number 1. Number 2 is like recently, and especially a lot of the gyms up here, is like the fucking tripods. When people will set their tripods up in the middle of the fucking walkway, I'm like, I'll walk in front of your camera, dudes. Like, I don't care. Like, get it out of the way. Like, I'm trying to train here. Like, I don't care if you set it up, but you don't need to set it up in such an obnoxious way to like block everybody off. And like, and it bothers me kind of in that aspect of like, are you there to record a video more? Or are you there to train? Like, I've had a tripod in the gym and I brought it like once, and I was like, man, I don't have the time to set this thing up. I can't even get a good workout. So I'll just ask people to record my sets real quick before I do the set, because it just takes up so much time unless you have somebody there recording for you. Number 3 is when people don't put their weights back. That's going for like, I really hate, and I get OCD because Attila's got like 5 different brands of 45 plates. I always put, well, like when I'm squatting, I'm using the same plate. So if I'm doing 5 plates each side, I'm looking for 10 plates that are the same brand. And I'm going to have to search through the gym to find those plates. I think people just need to like, I don't know, care a little more. Like, when I put all the plates back, I put them all together. Like, don't separate the brands, keep the brands the same. And then dumbbells, like, when that gets a mess, oh my God, I get so flustered. Like, you'll have 45s where the 5s go and the 5s where the 45s go. And one time I got 120s dumbbells, like they're on the bottom rack. And I think I was doing just like an incline press. I had some kid put 50s in there. And I looked at him and I was like, you know, those don't go there, right? And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, these go there. Like, you don't go from 110 to 50. Like, come on, man.
Oh man. It's you know what, dude? Isn't it wild being in some of these public gyms nowadays? It's like a jungle, man. Like, people are just They're just nuts.
I know. It's like, dude, like, have some like yeah, you're paying to come to the gym, but you're not paying for people to clean up after you. And I'm not fucking cleaning up after you.
Oh, good stuff, man. I love it, dude. It's great. So, all right, Elias, we're gonna end it right there, man. We've been going for well over 70, 75 minutes. So first of all, man, I just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing a little bit of your life story, your bodybuilding story, dude. It was a great chat. Before I do a really quick outro, anything that you want to leave with us, why don't you give us your Instagram, any shout outs, any final words, any final thoughts? Platform's yours. I'll do a quick outro and I'll let you go. So have at it, my man.
Yeah, my Instagram is just Elias McCall _. It's very simple. TikTok's the same. I don't really post on my TikTok that much, but those are really the only two platforms I use. If you're looking for me on, well, I haven't posted anything, so no. Yeah, that's about it. I don't really have too many platforms. Instagram's my main platform. If you want to reach out to me or give me a follow.
All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. Okay, I'll do a quick outro and I'll let you go. All right.
All right, man.
Cool. All of you who are tuning into this episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube, and then also take this episode and share on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Elias. Make sure you tag Behind the Muscle podcast so that we know you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.